What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering, and I know it's been a full day of news, including the Zoe Quinn news earlier today, the Pro Jared news this afternoon, and now some Cyberpunk 2077 news. So if you missed any of these videos or yesterday's videos, definitely take a look at all videos on the channel and make sure that you check them out. Also, there's a little bell. You can either long press it on your cell phone or just make sure it's highlighted, not grayed out, so you actually get notifications of when this channel uploads. Since it's so frequent, I know many of you will miss a video here or there, or there's videos that just you aren't interested in. So them's the breaks for me. As much as I'd like to think you all love me so much and you just watch everything I put out, I know that's not the case. But I do hope you'll leave a like and a comment on this video because it's helping the channel get out of the sandbox. I'm not sure we've completely done it yet. We had some good days last week, but I'm watching the analytics, so it's definitely having an impact, so please keep that up. Now, Cyberpunk 2077 is probably the most anticipated game maybe ever. I don't know, it's hard to say. When the modern day kind of makes you forget about the last time you were so hyped up for a game. Cyberpunk 2077 is, of course, brought to you by the CD Projekt Red folks, the people that brought the much-loved Witcher 3, and now Cyberpunk 2077. By all accounts, the game looks awesome. The gameplay, we have some more gameplay, I believe, coming out this Friday, which should be interesting to see. But at this point, I'm kind of trying to avoid a lot of the gameplay, a lot of that type of content, because for me, they kind of feel like spoilers a little bit. We know the game's going to be great. It's a little frustrating that we're not going to have it this Christmas season, but also the idea that we can have it completely polished if we wait until early next year, then that's a reasonable thing as well. However, if how they're going to spend their time is virtue signaling about stuff, I have some concerns. Now, Cyberpunk 2077 has abandoned gender options. They've removed gender from the game. Now, we've seen other games like this. Ubisoft does this with The Division 2, where it basically says you pick a body type. I don't know that this is necessarily harmful, but it is clearly slanted towards the 0.5% of people out in the world that literally care at all about this. I don't see any problem with having, obviously, a male character identify as male and a female identify as female. And if you want to have some third option that's androgynous, go ahead, right? I don't see the value in removing men from the game, if not to simply virtue signal. Nonetheless, CD Projekt Red has been criticized in the past for its handling of inclusivity and gender issues. Yeah, a game that's going to sell 20 million copies, totally not inclusive. In a recent interview, the senior concept artist of Cyberpunk 2077 discussing the way in which the game will approach gender within the game's character customization, and it's aimed to create as inclusive a game as possible. Expect more on this in the gameplay live stream on August 30th. That's just 3 days from today. CD Projekt Red has made it clear that they want Cyberpunk 2077 to be as inclusive as possible. And like, to be totally honest with you, who wouldn't, right? If by inclusive you mean the most amount of people on the planet buy my game, if you're defining it by literally any other characteristic, well, then it's hard for me to relate to you. Generally, this would assume, it is assumed, that players will be able to select from several gender options. And who doesn't love that? Several gender options for the protagonist with the subtly genderless name V. The developer has elaborated on the game's customization system, and it appears there will be no gender options. Instead, Cyberpunk 2077 will have a deep customization system that will go far beyond the simply choosing your character's background. It's CDPR's hope that this will help blur the lines between gender. Why? I'm curious why that's your hope. It's like when there are statements like this, it kind of fuels a lot of the curious people, the people that hold the belief that this is kind of like a belief system that people are pushing on other people. It's like You are about to make an amazing game. Why are you concerned about something that is completely irrelevant? And in an interview with Metro, Martha Jonkers, senior concept artist for Cyberpunk 2077, explains Cyberpunk's approach to the sensitive issue of inclusivity and why upon starting the game you won't choose any gender option. On implementation of these customization options, she said the following. With Cyberpunk 2077, we wanted to make a video game that's really inclusive. Of course, if you tackle certain subjects, then you will expect people to have an opinion about it, and we respect that. And it's good that people give us feedback. On our character creations menu, for instance, compared to the last demo, we now give you many, many more options. For instance, you don't choose your gender anymore. You don't choose, I want to be female or male. You now choose body type, because we want you to feel free to create any character you want. So you choose your body type, and we have two voices, one that's male sounding and one that's female sounding. Okay, but what if I want to create a male character? One might consider the fact that the overwhelming majority of video game players are men. If they had a preference, which probably most people do, if my preference was to create a male character, I can only create one that sounds and looks like a male, but it not necessarily a male. In fact, the voice could be voiced by a female if the only characteristic is, in fact, that it sounds like a male. You can mix and match. You can connect them any way you want. And when you have a lot of extra skin tones and tattoos and hairstyles, we really want to give people the freedom to make their own character and play the way they want to play. By the way, there's nothing wrong with this. To me, if you could, I mean, why not let people create a male or a female character, though? I'm instead selecting a body type. That's not a gender. CD Projekt Red hasn't been immune to criticism in the past, considering their handling of specific issues, but Jonkers assures that all criticism taken on board and will help create the best possible game. Look, maybe not all criticism is worth giving your mind to. I don't think that this is like a make or break issue, but it's annoying. The team is very international and very diverse, but what we've asked for a lot of feedback, we always get feedback, and even when we show these demos, we still ask people to tell us what you think. We just want to know what we can improve on because we want to make a really good game, and we want to make a game that everybody is comfortable playing. Well, what about the people that are only comfortable playing the game identifying as a male or a female? National worldwide statistics would say that people that identify as this is something like 99.5% of population. What if they want to identify as that, but now they can't? This is the problem that you run into when you start pandering to people with absurd demands. Is this hurting anybody? No, I'm not saying it is. And my detractors are like, oh, he's outraged. I'm not outraged. I'm just pointing out that this is a never-ending cycle of trying to appease people. Probably the best option would be to let people identify as male, female, or unknown. That way, people who are male can identify as that, or female can identify as that. The problem is, in modern-day society, if I said that I wanted to identify as male in Cyberpunk 2077, I would be laughed at. Even though that opinion probably would represent the largest group of people in the video game community, you wouldn't get any blue check marks retweeting that. And that's because it's not okay to be a man in video games. It's not something to be celebrated. It's something to be scoffed at. It's something to be criticized because, of course, we are the root of all of gaming's problems. The news comes just days after the next public gameplay reveal, so perhaps we'll see more of these extensive customization options. And, of course, this is why you do this. You do this type of thing to get all sorts of articles written about. Cyberpunk 2077, designed to be as inclusive as possible, character creation doesn't require a gender. The difference is, does it require it or can I have one? Because if it doesn't require one, then who cares? But if I can only pick like unknown, that's, of course, they're right, but one wonders why they're doing it. Identity is obviously a huge part of Cyberpunk as a genre, so this sounds like a logical step forward for the game. Depends who you ask. Our team is very international. We saw this quote. Would you like to see more games tackle character creation in this way? Create your ideal cyberpunk in the comment section down below. Again, you're choosing body type. You're not choosing a gender. And is this a big deal? No, it's not a big deal. But is it something that developers need to be wasting time on? When you have probably the biggest game in a decade releasing, I don't know if this is going to sell extra copies for you. In fact, I'd be willing to bet that there's people out there that will be so put off by this that they aren't going to buy your game, that this will probably have a net negative effect for you. The main takeaway here to CD Projekt Red and to fans of Cyberpunk 2077, it's not a good thing to worry about what blue checkmarks say about you on Twitter. I mean, you could just ask Iron Fury, which was listening to a huge minority in the video game community about being offended by a joke, which saw their game completely tank in review scores and see them flooded with refund requests, causing them to reverse course just a few hours later and leave the offensive content, according to some, in the video game. Why do you think that is? Because the silent majority doesn't ever see any of this stuff. They don't live on Twitter like video games journalists do. They don't live on YouTube like maybe some of us do. They just buy the games. But when you start putting out stuff like this, people start asking questions. People start wondering curiously, why is this such a big deal? They revealed that, why is removing gender more inclusive? I don't understand that. You're excluding people that want to identify as male and identify as female. That's a large group of people. So who is this for exactly? It's for journalists. It's for pandering. And I hate to see CD Projekt Red fall for this trap. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon. Hey, if you're still hanging out, there's a subscribe button right on the screen right now. Make sure to click that, turn notifications on. And if you want to see the next video, that should also be hovering around the screen. Thanks so much for watching this and for supporting the channel. What are you waiting for? Subscribe and, turn on notifications and like the video.